Is this like a first ever AFK hype train? Thank you so much, everyone. Good Lord. Maiden with 35 months, Nuvo with 45 months, Mary 27, Spank 35. Good Lord. Well, I'm gonna mosey on over to the kitchen, and I guess we're gonna start this up. Thank you so much, everyone. It's good to be back. Opa. Well, first things first, I need to introduce a new addition to the kitchen. I don't even know what to call this. It's an egg dispenser. So this bad boy will hold 2 dozen eggs, give or take. And as long as you're careful about letting the eggs roll down, it is a shush. It's a space saver. As long as you're careful about loading this up, the eggs gently roll down. Scott, good to see you on. And the eggs roll down and they kind of dispense themselves. I hope my audio is good. I'm just going to double check that I'm recording, and then we're going to start this up right away. Okay, the cooking portion is going to be very quick. We have, feel free to keep that hype train going. Don't let me stop you. Uh, we have the swirl and no swirl for the poaching. Other than that, all the techniques here are about the same. We're either going to use a regular spoon of some sort. Ooh, 69 biddies. What an interesting number. Or a slotted spoon. This is going straight to YouTube, so I have to keep it clean for now. I will load this up in a little bit. Over here in my kettle, I have some water. For every cup of water, we're going to use about 1 tablespoon of vinegar. Now, don't worry too much about the stankiness of the vinegar. Let's have some normal white vinegar in here. Really can't taste it. It's very subtle. I'm just going to keep this pot boiling hot. Spook, thank you so much for the 500 biddies. We're going to keep this water at a simmer. I have my thermometer. The ideal temperature in my world is between 180 and 190 Celsius. You can go as low as 140, 150, sorry, Fahrenheit. You can go as low as 140 to 150, and it normally takes closer to 5 or 6 minutes to poach. I like Grunch with another 69 bits. Thank you. Very interesting. I like being at a 180 to 190 Fahrenheit. It's just under a boil. Around 200 Fahrenheit, you're going to get a little too much of a boil, but around 190, you have tiny little bubbles. We don't want to agitate the water. We don't want the bubbles to interrupt the structure of the eggs. So what I'm going to do, just wipe this straight down. Now, we need to be very careful about eggshells. Terrifying. These eggs are old, so I fully expect there to be some icky water, and that's just from the proteins getting old. For the egg white itself, the outer part of the white is going to get a little stringy. We're going to have strands. I'm expecting strands of white. And I'm going to show you a few ways to clean that up. So without further ado, we have a very gentle boil over here. Check the temperature. When you see tiny little bubbles, you're probably around 190. Thank you so much, everyone, for that awesome hype train. Started off mostly AFK. Once your water gets to the right temperature, turn down your element so you don't keep increasing it. You want to keep the temperature stable. So right now we're at a 180. I'm going to turn this up just a touch. Now, I'm going to give the water a swirl. I'm going to very carefully lower the egg, very gently, into the middle, and you're going to see just the gentle buffeting of the water. It's going to encourage the white to form a protective little bubble of whiteny, proteiny goodness. And you can already see those wispy strands of white. Yeah. So I'm going to pretend that I had my timer going. Somewhere around 3 to 4 minutes at this temperature is good for soft, runny yolks. If you want your yolks a little more jammy, you need to poke your poached egg, and you'll just get a feel for how much spring, how much bounce, how much squishiness there is. You can always go for the quasi steak test if you're looking for like a jammy egg. You want it to be about as tender as this part of your thumb. But I mean, if you're like a pipe fitter or something, the squishiness of your hands are very different than somebody who does more, delicate work like an accountant. So even though there was a swirl, this looks like garbage. Objectively, this looks like garbage. And that's because the white didn't form a complete package around the yolk. And that's because these are old eggs and the white was very runny, as expected. Now, in about 2 minutes, I'm going to remove the egg. I'm also going to bust out my favorite kitchen gadget, known as the paper towel. Slide this back just a touch. Yoink. As long as you're careful, you can roll your poached egg over some paper towel to get rid of the water. And that's strictly for that's not just for presentation. As you make better poached eggs that are properly formed, the rolling in paper towel is less necessary, but I do encourage you to do it. The water's boiling a touch more than I want it to, but it's gentle enough that the egg itself isn't flying around. It's a little more bubbly than I want. I'm just going to turn this down to just over 7 on my electric stove. Close enough. I'm going to bust out my slotted spoon. Nobody likes frying eggs. Okay, this is actually very, very runny still. I'm going to give this another 2 minutes, actually. Maybe 1 minute. This sucker's a little deceptive. The other thing is you'll get this foaminess of more egg white. Okay, good enough. Slotted spoon is your friend. It's kind of jiggly. This is very, 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 very runny. this weren't for demonstration purposes, I would poach it for another minute. But just to show you, you can safely roll this on your paper towel. See, this I'd be okay serving it like this. I mean, that looks okay. This, it's not the worst. This is pretty darn runny. So far, we have one egg, and you know, some of this extra schmutzy stuff came up on the paper towel. So presentation-wise, this is not the worst. Let's get away from some glare. This isn't too bad, right? Now, we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to leave this water the way it is. I don't care about the scum on top. But what I am going to do I'm going to use my fine mesh strainer. Well, it's a good thing I didn't get any eggshells in there because I have no idea what to do. And these eggs are so crappy, such garbage quality, I couldn't even crack it without breaking the yolk. But you can see how much of the egg white, almost half of it, came out the bottom. If these were better quality eggs, if they were more fresh, they would be not falling apart. So I'm just going to transfer all of this. To a container for later use. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to see if I can manage to go the entire stream without getting some eggshells in here, and I'm going to be very careful with how I crack this egg. Okay. Again, very lucky, very fortunate, no eggshells. We're going to see again just how much of the egg white. So this is the really runny part of the egg white. I'm just going to take all of this and slowly transfer this over to my bowl. And I'm not going to even swirl the yolk. I'm just going to dump this in right in the middle. And you're going to see, very likely, that the egg white is going to stay in place. And you can see the egg white stayed in place, and it's forming that beautiful protective barrier around the egg yolk. So, using a fine mesh strainer to get rid of all the excess white. Pro tip. So again, we have vinegar in the water, about 1 tablespoon per cup. It helps sets the egg whites faster, and the faster you can set the exterior of the egg white, the better protected and the better the presentation is. And with the typically like salt and pepper at least, maybe some hollandaise, maybe some Canadian bacon, back bacon, English muffin, whatever you will, you're not going to notice the vinegar. You really won't. So this one was without a swirl. I actually combined number 2 and number 3 because we had 5 types of eggs to do. Now, the interesting one is, why don't I just, instead of worrying about the swirl, why don't I just take the egg in the fine mesh strainer and just poach it like this? I mean, I'd need 1 basket for each egg. So it'd be very difficult to do batches of this. But does this work? I mean, it should. I've never done it, so I want to try. But the final version, uh, I was recently exposed to it, and my mind blown, completely blown. And I should actually start that right now because it takes about 10 minutes to set up. Like this is looking pretty damn perfect. Pretty damn perfect. So this pot over here, I'm going to need, I guess, 6 tablespoons of vinegar because I'm going to need 6 cups of boiling hot water. Now, are you ready to have your minds blown? We're going to take equal parts of water and vinegar. You heard me right, equal parts. So there is 1/2 cup of the vinegars, and I'm going to use the exact same amount of water. Ignore the foaminess. That's just from the egg white that was in here. You know what? Let's make this look pretty. Now the bowl itself might be a little dirty. This side. Okay, we have less than 1 minute on the timer. We're going to take a quick dip into my vinegar's cloudy. Huh. I guess I have some mother of vinegar forming in there. Okay. This was with the whites strained through a fine mesh strainer. Utter perfection. Like seriously, your poached eggs do not get much better than this. And this is 0 effort. Well, close to 0 effort. So that one was no swirl, no fancy doodads, no nothing. I just strained out the watery egg white. How old is this vinegar? It's a fantastic question. Okay. Just going to fully submerge the egg. Nice. Huh. I guess there was some egg white in here. Started cooking right away. I've wondered about poaching in one of these fine mesh baskets before, and I just never got around to doing it. So here we are for science. Still no eggshells. It's like I've broken eggs before, once or twice. Okay. So that was no swirl. That was just dunked into the barely simmering water. And we're just going to leave this alone. I'm expecting some of the egg white is going to get stuck in the actual mesh, and it's going to fall apart on me. Would it be worth the hassle to spray it with nonstick spray so it didn't happen? Like, this made sense in my brain, but when I thought about it for a few seconds, I'm like, there's got to be a reason why nobody does this. And I think this is one of many reasons. You're only going to be able to do one at a time if you want your poached eggs to look like, well, the good one. And yeah, your eggs might stick. Now, back to the science experiment. And this is where it gets kind of crazy. One part vinegar, one part water coming up. Sneak the camera back a little bit. Now, here I have a good organic egg. The yolk will be a much more vibrant golden orange color, which of course in a yellow bowl is the worst contrast. I'm just going to very, very, very slowly lower this egg into my very vinegary water solution for about 10 minutes. So what's going to happen is, just like the vinegar in the pot helps the whites firm up faster, we're going to start basically cooking the egg white in the vinegar and the acid over here. And in 10 minutes, we're going to have this like little balloon of pure egg. And then we can pick that up and toss it in the boiling water and finish it off. And again, I've never done this before, but I just saw it the other day, and I'm very, very, very intrigued to see how well this works. Everything that I know about eggs tells me this should work as advertised. Is it worth the effort? I think so, because in 10 minutes I could be prepping my bacon and getting my biscuits ready and my hollandaise sauce. So it's really not adding a whole lot of time to my eggs Benedict. And this step isn't very time critical. It's not time sensitive. If it's 9 minutes, if it's 12 or 13, it's not going to affect the yolk. And the yolk is the most important part of the egg. You want your white to be properly cooked. You want the white to be formed evenly around the yolk, but the yolk's the real star of the poached egg. So I'm just going to leave our little prima donna to hang out there. It's like we have a very soft boiled. I can almost call that poached egg. It's going to give that a few more minutes. Well, maybe one more minute. And then I'm going to figure out how I'm going to extract it. Ghost, good to see you. We're making poached eggs 3 or 4 different ways. This is the bad way to do it. This is the super easy and kind of pro way to do it. This is one experimental way, and then the last one is super experimental. It's top secret. It's never been done before. We're going to slide our camera back. And now I need to see if this actually works. Oh, you know what? This is, oh my God. Holy smokes. That worked surprisingly well, except for I overcooked it. Because I was focusing on the top part. So this is like medium to well done poached egg. I left this in the water about 2 minutes longer than I should have. And I'm just realizing now that the thermal transference, the metal mesh is going to transfer heat arguably better than the water will. And I didn't take that into consideration, so I will for next time. I will possibly do this again in the future. If I'm just making a single poached egg, which is incredibly rare, I might actually do this. Because, I mean, that doesn't look too bad. And last but not least, we have our experiment over here. This needs another 7 minutes. Let's see if I can zoom right in. Can you see into this? Yeah, so you can see the egg white is getting a lot cloudier around the yolk. And that's only after 3 minutes. After 10 minutes, we're going to have a really neat balloon. So this egg is sitting in a 50-50 mix of vinegar and water. It looks like your brain. And then we're just gonna dump it in some hot water and cook it as usual. Okay, let's get rid of some of the glare over here, and I'm going to see if I can show off these eggs a little better. Is that better? I think that's better. So this was with swirl, with a crappy quality egg. This was, no, sorry, the first one was a swirl with a crappy quality egg. This egg I strained with my mesh strainer, and it's so much cleaner. And this takes no effort. This one takes no effort at all. This one I cooked inside the mesh strainer, and it's it needed to be done. I had that crazy thought a long time ago, and I'm glad that I did it. The other thing that's neat is a lot of restaurants. If you've ever wondered how Eggs Benedict stations at brunch places have an endless supply of eggs ready to go, that's because the eggs are mostly cooked in advance. They're poached for like 2.5 to 3 minutes, and then they're left in a bath of ice water. And before you use them, you dunk them into almost boiling water for like 30 seconds. It warms them up, and you have freshly poached eggs. Does that seem kind of gross? It shouldn't. Same idea with French fries. Yeah, except for French fries, you actually fry them, but they're more than half cooked, coming up to the last step. The crispiest of foods are typically fried at least twice, sometimes 3 times. Even if there's breading involved. If you want something super duper crispy, you want to make sure there's no moisture, that there's especially no water at all on the outermost like 10, 20, 50% of whatever you're cooking. You want to get rid of all the moisture, because if there's any moisture, it gets soggy. You want it as dry as possible. That's where you maximize your crunch, as I like to call it. And the more surface area you have, so the more scuffed up the exterior is, the more surface area you actually have, which is an opportunity for even more crunch. So when you have potatoes, that's why it's recommended you take your potato pieces, and when you're boiling them, you boil them in water that has baking soda. Right, because it tenderizes the exterior of the potatoes, and then you can toss those around in your bowl, and they scuff up very easily. That's why potatoes, that are boiled and then tossed around, they get this whitish exterior, and that's just the outermost layer of the potato getting scuffed up. And then when you fry that sucker, it gets super duper crispy. The more you know. Okay, so here we have, we're at 7 minutes. And this egg white is starting to actually turn white. You can see along, yeah, can you even get that? You can see along the bottom where my finger is towards top end of the bowl. So top left on your camera. My camera, your screen. You'll see that there's a like white actually forming from the egg white. So it's actually cooking. And the same, I don't want to call it a technique, but the same science applies to a lot of raw fish recipes where you let it marinate in a citrus of some sort. You're chemically cooking the fish in an acid. Fish meat is it's very tender. It's very delicate, so you can safely cook it in acid without denaturing it, without it getting all sorts of weird and funky on you. It works with egg whites, makes sense. It works with fish, makes sense. I don't think it works with beef unless you have an incredibly, incredibly potent acid, at which point I don't think it's food safe. At a guess. Just going to check this temperature since I'm here. 150, 160, 170, 180. After I finish poaching this last egg, I'm going to cut into each of these so you can see what the yolks look like. And then we're going to go play some games after we say goodbye to YouTube. I think the two most important things to take away from today's stream: 1 tablespoon of vinegar per 1 cup of water in your boiling water. You don't want your boiling water to do much more than this. Actually, this is a little too much, just a touch too much. And you want to take your fine mesh strainer and strain out the runny part of your egg white. The egg white that goes into the pot, you want it to be as goopy as possible. You don't want it to be flying around. You don't want wisps of egg white all over the place. You want it to stay as this gelatinous protective bubble around your egg yolk. Other than that, the swirl, I think, is kind of irrelevant. And a slotted spoon is your friend. Okay. So this is, man, this looks so wild. I'm just going to slowly pick this up. Let go. Let go. Some of the protein snuck underneath. Okay. So I screwed up pouring that into the pot, but I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. The egg itself is holding together very, very, very well. You can see it right underneath my finger on the far end of the top end of the screen. I'm going to give this 3.5 more minutes. And this should be kind of perfect. So mental note, don't drop it in with a slotted spoon. Use a bowl or like a ladle like this. Pick it out with a slotted spoon. That was completely my fault. Even with the crazy price of eggs these days, you can get a package, you can get a cheap package of ramen noodles, which I don't recommend you get, but you can get a cheap pack of ramen noodles for, what, 50 cents, a buck tops. You throw in an egg that's worth 75 cents to a buck. I mean, around here, a good egg is around 50 cents, but I'm sure in some places it's 75 cents to a buck, even US. For $2, you can take what's normally a crappy bowl of ramen and truly elevate it just by adding a poached egg. And $2 for a decent meal with some good quality protein, there's worse things you could be putting in your body. I will refrain from expanding on that. Again, this is going straight to YouTube. Got to keep it clean. So even though I totally... Gangles, yo. Even though I completely screwed up dropping this egg into the boiling water, it's holding its shape very well. Very, very well. Well, the super easy one was this one here, and this one took basically the least effort and is perfect. And just to prove the point, you can take your room temperature egg and put it in your kind of simmering water just to heat it up. But you don't want to be cooking it, right? You just want to warm it up. And we definitely don't use microwaves around here to warm up our food. Okay, last but not least, here is our very science-y, very gastro-science-y poached egg. I'm just going to toss it over on this paper towel just to get rid of some moisture. Yes, that is very hot. Okay. So this one had swirl, but I left the whites alone. White solid, yolk is nice and runny. Crappy color, because these are garbage quality eggs. This one, I strained the egg with my fine mesh strainer. I got rid of the watery egg white, and then I just dumped this. I just dropped this into my simmering water. Perfectly cooked. This one I cooked inside of that strainer basket, and I overcooked it a little bit. It's still a little jammy in here. The bottom seems overdone, and I believe that's because of the heat transfer from the metal strainer basket. Because this strainer basket has metal on the bottom, and I believe that conducted more heat than I wanted, and cooked the bottom just a touch too much. But this is still nice and runny, so this is still nice and runny. And finally, last and definitely not least, the experiment. And you can tell the difference of an organic egg and the other garbage ones because this is it's not showing up on camera. This is a lot more orange. The inside is a heck of a lot more orange than the other ones. Yeah, actually, you can maybe see this here. The white's firm, it's not hard. Yolk is jammy, runny, perfect. So the two big takeaways, make sure that you're using good quality eggs, because this last one was with an organic egg. Salt and pepper, and it's dinner, right? Exactly. Salt, straight from back home adjacent. This is all I had left on my counter was the salt and pepper. That's exactly exactly what I was thinking too. Letting the good quality egg set in the vinegar and water solution. If it's not a super good quality egg, you should strain it first. So the big takeaway is strain the runny part of your egg whites, and then you either just gently boil it after you slowly lower your egg into just simmering water, not a heavy boil, or you let it cure in a 1-to-1 vinegar water for about 10 minutes and then cook it. I mean, arguably the vinegar curing might be easier. Vinegar is super cheap. I don't know. For me, I'm fairly experienced. Just straining the runny part of the white is all that I do. But if I was going to do a bunch of eggs, like if I was going to poach eggs for like next time I have the boys over, if we're going to do eggs Benedict, I think in advance I would do this. I would set up like a dozen eggs in a big bowl of water and vinegar, and then boil them for like 2.5 minutes, and then just leave them on ice till people are ready to eat, and then put them back in the water for 30 seconds to finish them off. You know, pot roast is so underrated. And then I looked at the price of roasts, and I don't know if I can afford them. Like a decent quality roast is in the neighborhood of like 12 to 14 bucks a pound now, which is ridiculous. Because I'm used to pot roast, like a pot roast being around. I'm in Canada, right? So it's the numbers are a little different. I'm used to roasts being in the neighborhood of $8 to $9 a pound, and if it's on sale or coming close to the expiration date, it's like $4 to $5 a pound. At that point, I can turn a decent quality roast into kind of good quality steaks. Yeah, Gangles, that's exactly what I like to do. And that's a heck of a discount. That's a heck of a discount. Especially if you're not susceptible to getting, I don't want to call it food poisoning, but if you've got a fairly cast iron stomach and you can deal with meat that's a little off, you can save so much money buying things last second. I'm not recommending this. It's bad food safe, bad food handling. Don't do it. Don't do what this guy does. Yeah, my parents were very 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 frugal. Well, like they grew up in like post-war depression after the occupation, and man, the stories that were drilled into me every day. Like I don't understand how you can like walk to school uphill against escalators both ways in 10 feet of snow with only one cardboard shoe to share between You and your siblings. I'm not sure how the uphill against escalators both ways works, but who am I to judge? Anyways, this is fantastic. I'm really glad that I tried this out. I'll definitely be doing this again. The texture, it's a little firm, so I'm going to have to watch the timing on this. But again, if I'm going to drown this in hollandaise sauce, straining out the runny white in one form or another, that's the absolute key. The swirl in the water is irrelevant if your egg white is healthy. And that's all I got. Let's go play some games. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm going to say goodbye to YouTube. I'm going to wrap up my spoiled eggs. By spoiled, I mean cracked yolks. And even though the price is significantly higher, I have decided that I'm going to be buying probably 24 crappy quality eggs and at least 24 good quality organic free range-ish grain-fed eggs, because I can taste the difference. I can see the difference. If I'm baking with substandard eggs, that's fine. You really can't notice the difference. You still have the protein, you still have the fats in the egg yolk, you're good. As far as something that you're going to fry up and you're going to be presenting to somebody as an egg, not as part of a batter, I'm going to use the organic stuff. Even though it's like 30-40% more expensive, I feel that it's worth it. Just for the taste, I mean, arguably the health reasons, it's just better quality food. But for making cakes and whatnot, I'm just going to use the garbage quality. I shouldn't call it garbage quality. I'm going to use the not top shelf eggs. Okay, that's enough rambling for now. Let's go play some games. And Mary, thank you for the lurk. Don't go away. Or somebody pick a game. Solitaire coming up. Let's do it.